They say your home is your safest place. But on a quiet street in Boise, Idaho, one house earned a name whispered only in fear. The Chop Chop House. On a summer night in 1987, a 21-year-old man stumbled bleeding across a neighbor's porch, pounding on the door, screaming for help. Moments later, the screaming stopped, and what happened next inside 805 West Linden Street remains one of Idaho's darkest, most disturbing crimes. A night when friends became executioners, a body was dismembered, and police ignored the first desperate 911 call that could have saved a life. Preston Murr was only 21, soft-spoken, loyal, the kind of young man who clung fiercely to the people he loved. He had spent the day at a funeral, already emotionally drained, before meeting up with friends. People said he was sensitive, someone who tried to make peace rather than stoke conflict. He lived with his girlfriend, who described him as warm, impulsive, and fiercely protective. But on June 29, 1987, Preston was rattled, unsettled. A series of violent threats shook him so badly that he reached out for help anywhere he could find it. He believed his friends would protect him. He had no idea they would lead him straight into the nightmare house where he'd take his final breath. The unraveling began earlier that afternoon. After the funeral, Preston and several men began drinking. Hard. A fistfight broke out. Police arrived, broke up the brawl, issued citations. But the anger didn't fade. That night, Preston received a phone call, and whoever was on the other end promised one thing: death. Shaken, Preston called police, but they said there was little they could do. Desperate, Preston reached out to a friend he trusted, Daniel Rogers, a man rumored to always know what was happening in town. Rogers arrived at a Circle K with another friend, Darren Cox. A witness saw Preston at the payphone, gripping a baseball bat, his only shield against the threats. The three drove to Preston's apartment first, discussing the threatening call. But the topic shifted. Rogers claimed his guns had been stolen. He insisted Preston help search for them. One wrong decision after another, and Preston found himself in the back seat, being driven to the house on West Linden Street. The house of horror. Inside, the mood turned dark. Arguments escalated. Alcohol fueled rage. Just before midnight, a gunshot cracked through the old wooden walls. Preston had been shot in the shoulder. Bleeding, panicked, he fled the house, running straight to the neighbor's door. The neighbor woke to pounding, shouting, and the chilling words, "Let go of me." He looked through the window and saw a man limping across his yard, and another chasing him into the dark. Moments later, silence. The neighbor opened his door and froze. Blood smeared across his doorframe, dripping down his walkway, leading directly toward 805 Linden Street. He called 911. No officers came. Police initially wondered, was this tied to the stolen guns? The funeral brawl? A revenge fight? A drug deal gone wrong? Rumors spread through Boise. None led to answers. None explained why Preston vanished into the night. Meanwhile, inside the house, Rogers and Cox were scrubbing the porch with a hose, erasing evidence as the neighbor watched from behind his blinds. If police had responded earlier, Preston may still have been alive. The truth came out only after Preston's dismembered remains washed up along the Brownlee Reservoir. Rogers and Cox were immediately identified as the last people seen with him. A search of 805 Linden Street revealed blood soaked into the floorboards. A bullet fragment. A bullet hole in the basement wall. Evidence of cleaning. Drag marks. Preston had been dragged back into the house, taken to the basement, forced on his knees, and executed, then mutilated with an axe. Rogers stuffed the body parts into garbage bags. He and Cox drove for miles, scattering parts into water, dumpsters, and rural land. The horror inside the Chop Chop house had spilled across half the state. The full horror emerged in court. Witnesses testified to hearing Preston's final screams. Rogers showed no remorse. Cox admitted to helping dismember and dispose of the body. The prosecutor painted the house at 805 West Linden Street as a place where rage, alcohol, and paranoia converged into barbarity. The community was shaken not only by the brutality, but by the haunting question. If police had arrived when the neighbor first called, would Preston Murr have walked out alive? Justice came, partially. Daniel Rogers was sentenced to life without parole. The mastermind, the executioner. Darren Cox received 6 years for helping him mutilate the body. To this day, people in Boise drive past 805 West Linden Street and shudder. Some swear the house feels wrong. Others call it cursed. And many still wonder, how many minutes passed between Preston's screams and the moment police finally arrived? Minutes that could have rewritten everything.